Bortle here, guys. Coming back from the PPG Pro Tour Dallas event in Texas from over the weekend. And we have here Alex Bergeron that made top four at this event. Hey, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing well, pretty tired, but had a blast this weekend. It was a ton of fun seeing everyone and having a really great weekend.
Sweet. So, overall, what was your experience like at this event?
It was really good. So we drove down. It was a group of me, Aaron McKennis, Quentin Brown, and Mark St. Romain. Three really well-known players, and we went down for the case tourney on Friday for Epic. We were all playing Pendulum for the case tourney, and then Mark chickened out and played Solid for the main event, which really worked out well for him. He also made top four. And then Quentin and I were pretty much just like fixing our list up until like pretty much early Saturday morning. And the list I ended up taking was like kind of a creation of just like realizing like new combos we could do like that night, and it really like kept me ahead pretty much most of the day. I felt like I was just in control of most of my games.
Wow, and yes, you did mention that card was pretty stacked. But was Quentin using like a similar list to yours, or?
No, Quentin kind of just stuck to his own theory, but like we just kind of bounced around questions on like how each card tested. He decided to actually main hand traps in his list. I think he had like two impermanents, two ghost ogre, and then like the big another big difference is that I did not play Master Cerberus, which I think I was probably the only Endymion player or like Pendulum player, I guess you can call it, that didn't play that card.
And what's the theory behind not playing that card?
So I decided not to play it because it didn't really work that well with Servant, because for its effect to resolve, it has to be the only one in the scale. And yeah, it gets you to Jackal in hand, but like it doesn't get you to Jackal on the board. You have to have that in like a chronograph in your hand to like already have that out early. And Servant only summons from the deck, so it didn't really work out that way. Plus, it getting Ash can really interrupt a lot of your plays because you have to rely on like having already hard opening that like another way to get to it. So you already have to have like an above average hand to play through your Cerberus getting ashed.
Alrighty, well, we have your deck list open right now. Would you like to go ahead and go in order?
Yeah. Let's start off at the top, just because it's an ABC order here because of dueling book. So you can see the three Amorphages up there. So this was like the talking point for my deck most of the weekend was because I was abusing the scale effects of these cards and like in conjunction with getting them like one of the bigger ones on the board. Usually it was Goliath. So like you see Goliath there has a scale effect that it's a macrocosmos. So that would be like really good in some of the matchups that I played. Like if I had like a heavy danger matchup, like well, I played the zombie guy in top 16, but I didn't really have a way to scale it, so I just kind of like just did normal combo. But the big one I played was the second one, the red one, which I'm not going to butcher the name like I have in every profile I've done. But this one stops spells, and this one I would just turbo into it. It's a scale 5, so you just pendulum summon your 4s, and then you just proceed to guard dragon combo out to like get your negates up, and then have Goliath out. And then Sloth is a mistake, which is really good, just in some niche matchups. But it's mainly there because it's a level 6 and it's easy to pendulum summon it.
Wow, such a great explanation on the three, and pretty nice, and they're all dragons too, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it got people all weekend. Like, pretty much all three of my features, I think someone tried to play a spell on me, like, after I made the board. And that was after they picked it up and they were like, oh, okay, cool. And I think they only focus on the monster effects. But yeah, moving on, you'll see the start of the small magician engine. You'll see that I just play one black thing, three of the harmonizing, two purple poison, and then the dragon collar that's over there. So this is a smaller magician lineup. We just kind of wanted to abuse harmonizing, and the two purple poison were there for utility. And I guess a surprise card that I don't think was in any other of the Pendulum players list was the Dragon Collar Magician. That just lets you so that if you didn't hard open into like a Dark Worm or like one of the other dragons in the deck, that we were able to still play with that.
Wow, very interesting, and it also has Monarch stats, so why not play, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because I am the person that top with Monarchs at the regional with after it got hit. So I had to keep it faithful, but I couldn't fit Pantheism in, you know.
Yeah, the Destrudo and stuff like that.
So Destrudo was really good because actually like it was like super late into the day that we realized like a different combo that I like was because I was ending on like leaving a rank 4 on the board, but if you open Destrudo, you can put the LB in the middle of Saruja and then like make the Heretic link and then have that pointing to the LP target. So you have two arrows, and so that gives you like an extra interruption instead of just leaving like a Skull Dread there for them to get a 300 boost.
Would you like to discuss the Dracoslayer lineup?
Yes, so I played the Luster Pendulum and the Master Pendulum. So turn one, the usual Pendulum board is like you have a Jackal up before you Electromite, and so then you'll Pendulum summon probably three, and then so you'll Pendulum one, the Dragon to the left. If you have like Dark Worm, you Pendulum to the left of Electromite, and then you would summon another level 4 and then Harmonizing, and then you would make Pisty to the left arrow of Electromite, and then what you would make next to that is Ignister. And so what Ignister's second effect, or the first effect I think it might be, no, yeah, it is the second effect, that you can special summon from your deck a Dracoslayer monster, and that effect is not a hard once per turn. So all it was just more link fodder, and they were dragons coming out of the deck, so they were like able to make LP or Aggro Pain if I needed to use them for that. So it was just really significant. And then also like the Draco Slayers, like opening Master Pendulum is really good if you have Endymion, because you can just pop itself and it's another counter for that. And so that became really free. And then Luster was just another tuner. There were a few times that like going second that I just opened that and didn't have a way to Harmonizing, and that made my Ignister plays. And like the Ignister plays in this deck are really cool because I'm playing Pisty in the extra deck, so you get to spin two things. And then like you'd make like Aggro Pain, and then you have a Vortex bounce. So that makes like going second really easy because you're not destroying anything, which like a lot of things have protection for. You're shuffling and bouncing.
Wow, that's insane to be honest. You already explained that you don't play Cerberus, so you played the one copy of Jackal King. How was that?
It was really good. So game one, if I had like Mastery or Servant in hand and a way to 3 counters, like I was always making Jackal first. And what a lot of people didn't know is when you summon with Servant, they each get 1 counter. And so like I would then like play Pendulum Call and they would Ash. But Jackal, you don't have to remove from Jackal itself. You can remove counters from anywhere on your field. And so like it was just like baiting them into a hand trap because I wasn't like trying to get the 3rd counters onto Jackal. I was just like leaving it there and seeing if they like would read a bit enough.
Jeez, and there's really no explanation needed for the Dark Worm engine because that's just insane by itself, right?
Yeah, that's just super standard. It's your best normal summon if you have it in your hand. It's so good. Moving forward, the first spells is the 3 Called by the Grave. So like this deck and a lot of the Pendulum decks now are really combo oriented. So it's pretty much make my board and you can't beat it. And so like you just need Ogre was running everywhere. Like Quentin Brown was maining it in his own Pendulum deck because he realized like that card was just so good for the event. Because even like against Thunder Dragon, you hit the LP and they probably don't have another arrow to it if they didn't play around or they couldn't. And then like against multi-roll, and so like we just needed a way to like play against the salad decks that were maining like 13 hand traps and all the decks that could play a bunch of them because we needed Pen Call to resolve. We needed I needed specifically Electromite to resolve because it was my way to get them to cut them off from spells. Yeah, and then so we've got the Dragon Shine and the Foolish. That's just 1 and 1. I was playing 2, but then it just wasn't needed because you are playing a lot of dragons and Dragon Caller to make things dragons. So 1 and 1 was fine because you weren't seeing multiples. And then I played 2 Duelist Alliance and 2 Pendulum Call. So these cards were really good for the event. We didn't want to overload on a bunch of them because like Thunder Dragon was the deck still. So like we didn't want to just auto lose to a Colossus Pass by having just a bunch of search cards. But these were the right ratio, so we were able to like see the harmonizings in our deck, so we could fully combo off. And then next, we have the 2 Desires. So this was probably like my favorite and least favorite card of the event, which probably is like a lot of players to say when they play like decks that it could like really screw you over. Because in top 4, I definitely banished like most of my dragons game 2 and 3. Game 3 specifically, I had like 1 Dark Worm in my hand at the start, and like that was the only dragon I had after I Desires. I had nothing to combo, nothing to LP. It was pretty sad.
And you would argue that 2 is the correct ratio versus 3 Desires?
Yes, because like you, besides Mastery, we didn't want to play a lot of like once per turn spell cards because like you need to play with all 5 cards in your hand, especially like if you're playing with Called By, you need to play with those 4 cards in your hand. So like we needed to just maximize on those cards to make sure we could like make our boards. But Mastery was really good at 3 because seeing it with Servant makes you like pretty much guarantee that you're going to combo because you get the extra counter from its second effect.
Okay, and we see that there's 1 copy of Upstart Goblin.
Yeah, so I really wanted to play Upstart. Like that was like, oh, it's a free counter. And then like I just couldn't cut a card. And then like it was like becoming a problem. And so like I was just like talking to Quentin and he was like, yeah, you know what? I am a fan of this theory. I agree with it. And it's just another counter. So like just making sure that your like servant was going to resolve, and like before, like the big goal is to make servant resolve before you pen call, so that way you have that protection, or like before you electromite. And so like as much opportunity I could have to that while not like limiting the power or like consistency of my deck, then so like I just went with that. And also it was like it made siding easier in the Pendulum deck, which is also like a really hard thing to do and to learn.
Oh yeah, that's true. Upstart could be a easy card out, and also you just explained to everyone that Upstart's basically a 2-for-1 in this deck.
Yeah, because it guarantees a counter. And like, yeah, I did do it like 3 times. I played Upstart this weekend. It either got me to Alliance or Pen Call. And yeah, but you know what? If Metal Foes Fusion can get all the striker players engaged, then let me have my fun too, right?
That's true. That's true. Would you like to explain the extra deck next?
Yeah. So we'll go to the extra deck. The first is just the one fusion. I play the Vortex. It's usually what you make with Agripane. I don't play Absolute Dragon, so it's really like the only way you can get to it is you make Agripane. It's just the general negates. It's easy to make. F.A. Dong Dragster. So this was if you open really awkward and you had to make just like weirder boards, you had that utility with the level 7. Or if you did just like, if I didn't have a way to like use the Amorphages in their scale, then I would just do the typical Endymion like Guard Dragon combo that pretty much everyone that was playing that deck in the room was doing. That ended with like 4 to 5 just interaction negates. But I was preferring to usually go for like the 2 floodgates and then the 3 negates that I would end with. And then the next card's Ignister. It's my favorite card in the entire deck. I was making it turn 1. I was making it if I was going second. I did it actually when I played G round 2. That was like pretty much my win con because I knew I had to like not let you get those trick stars in the grave so you could like banish and then reincarnation them.
Oh geez, the flashbacks. Yes, that is correct. Just the fact card does not target is insane.
Oh yeah, so pretty much you have to like immediately respond to it if you have anything that like you potentially could. And I got a lot of people with that because like I said effect, it was okay, then I would like hit their back row and then they would like try to train Twin Twister and I would be like, it's a little late for that. Like it's kind of like Trish, man. And then it was just it was unfortunate for them, but like they had to learn those interactions just like I did.
Did you ever consider playing Bortle's Savage Dragon?
I did. So it was I played this deck at the SA regional without the Amorphages, and I got like in the 20s with it, and it was like pretty fine. And I did have that in my extra deck, but it just never came up. Like if you were making it, your board was already you were already in like an overwinning position, and like it's never really worth to just like make it late game because you just make other things to try to kill them.
Okay, sweet. You can just keep going on.
Sweet. So I played the 2 rank 4s. I played Dweller because it's Dweller. It's just really good in a lot of matchups. It was pretty much just like top 16. I was like almost thinking if I had a way to it, I was going to make it, but I didn't. But I still won, so it was fine. Supreme King, this is another card that like stares back and haunts me a little bit after my top 4 match because it was another thing I could have made to win it. But it did come up when I played the Pendulum Mirror twice, actually. I played it like 2 separate rounds, and it really came up really well. And then we've got, for the residents, the Bortle Sword Dragon. Games 2 and 3, a lot of the time when I make my combo, I was leaving this on the board as well. Like I was ending with that instead of Skull Dread. Because it would play around Pankratops easier because that card just completely destroys this deck after I make the board. It's really hard to play around it at times, and so like having that to like make sure they couldn't attack over anything was really useful because then they would just tribute, and then most of the time you either Jackal or Vortex that effect, and then to protect your floodgates. That was also if you couldn't end your board with Heretic. And then we've got the Guard Dragons. I've got the Agripane and the LP, which are pretty standard for most of them. But a lot of the Pendulum decks, I think I'm the only one to play Pisty in the Pendulum decks, and that was just because of like the combo that I came up with Ignister, so that way I could like abuse that, and then like because like when I first came up with it, I wanted a way to like do the Guard Dragon combo, but making sure I used LP last because I was going to end with a Goliath, so I couldn't go back into my extra deck. And so like Pisty like opened so many doors so that way I could still build negates, but also have things that just like you couldn't play around because they wouldn't let you play. And then, so we've got the Electromite next. It's Electromite. Don't really have to explain that. It's a Pendulum deck. We've got the Heretic Seal. This card, fun story, it wasn't in my deck on Friday night. Like, I wasn't playing it, and then I just was wrong. So, like, thankfully, I have, like, good friends that, like, help you test. And, like, it's always good to have those support networks because, like, they definitely helped me, like, top this event. Because if that card wasn't, I would have for sure lost. And then I've got Nightmare Phoenix. It's just utility. I popped a few floodgates with it to make sure that I could still play. It just comes in handy. Skull Dread, it's Skull Dread, you need it. This card, unlike I only need one, I don't like ever make the second one, so it's really good. Then we've got the Land Fornicus. This card, it was the mistake on my deck list. I did not have the Beat Cop from the Underworld, because that's a generic effect monster linked to. Because, like, if you make this, you can't make Bortle Sword with it, because it's not an effect monster.
Ooh, that's a huge, yeah.
Yeah, but like this was just to make sure that you like could still play, and like the whole concept was we didn't want to play the Endymion link monster that came in the structure deck because that required you to have 2 spellcasters. So if you had like Chrono and Darkworm or Chrono and like Luster in your hand, you were still going to be able to play and like Pendulum Summon 2 from your extra deck. And the last card is another card that will haunt me for a little while. It's Triple Burst Dragon. That's another thing I could have made to attack over some things. This card's just the standard card. I used its Battle Phase effect a few times in the Spell Striker matchups. They didn't really see that coming. So that was really handy.
Let's jump to the side deck.
Yeah, so I got 2 Denkos and 2 Pankratops and the 2 red reboots on the end over there. Those are just for the back row deck, Striker, Salad, just not letting you play. I played 3 Joel and Lockbird this weekend, so it was mainly for the Thunder deck to make sure that like they can. I know they can still play around it, but like the advantage that they have to sacrifice to still end with the board is just so much worth because then you just have to worry about their board, and then just like you pretty much just win the game from there because they have no option to play. And then it was also really, really good in the Pendulum Mirror matches because a lot of the Endymion decks, like they play a bunch of searching cards to keep gaining spell counters or playing Terraforming in some of the decks that I saw, you know, to use the Zephyr engines, which all searches the things off of each other. So it was really, really good against that because it just mitigates their board, especially because it puts them on You Better Open just crazy. And then I played 2 of the Black Kaiju. This card was really good. It was just against Striker and for Salad if they opened poorly because I didn't really play. I don't have room for Lava Golem because I wanted to play 3 Sphere mode just because I didn't want to just lose to the Mirror match or Thunder Dragon. Those were like the 2 matchups that I was most scared of because those were the 2 matchups that I couldn't control myself because those decks also just put up boards that you just can't play. So I just really needed to make sure I won. I dropped it a few times. I actually got Sphere moded by Hani's brother Hisam. He Sphere moded me, but he didn't really have a full play to play around, so I was able to like win the next turn because I had the generic link too, and I was able to OTK him through that. And then the last card, I had 14 cards because I thought I had 3 Pankratops, and then I realized I didn't walking into the event. And so it was going to be a Veiler, and then Aaron McKennis handed me an Impermanence, and I did cheese an anti-spell with the 1 Impermanence that I topped, and so that was pretty cheesy, but it was fine. Going forward, it'll probably be a 3rd Pankratops.
Wow, so you're saying that the 1 random Impermanence did its job.
It did. It did its job game 2 after I won game 1, so like in my conscience, I was like, okay, I'm confident enough that I would still win game 3, like worst case scenario, but yeah, no, I did cheese the win game 2 with that.
Sweet. And did you want to explain what you could have done differently on your last match in the top 4?
Yeah. So in the room that we had the feature match in, it was a great room, wonderful setup, had a great judging staff and everything. The only thing I would have done better was to give us like a more visual clock. Because all 3 of my feature matches, I found myself like in the middle of my turns, in the middle of my opponent's turns, and my opponents were doing the same. We'd have to like ask the judge how much time was in the round instead of just having that resource to like be able to look up and engage everything. So against Cam, I won game 1, game 2. It was a grindy game 2, and he ended up winning it. And then game 3, it was a little bit back and forth, but he was starting to gain advantage, and because he broke my board. And then I didn't realize how much time was left, so I was trying to find a way to like leave something on the board that he wouldn't be able to play, and then 1 interruption. And the only way I found that was to end up with the board of the Hieratic Seal, and then a Morphage Sloth. And so then I attacked, doing 450 damage, and then that put him 50 up ahead in life. And so then I passed, thinking that like I thought he was going to like have his turn, and then I was going to have 1 more swing at it. I thought we had like 2 more minutes left. And the next thing I know, he drew. It was standby phase, and then the judge's phone went off, and then that was time in the round. And so had I had paid more attention, had I been a little bit more aware, wary of like playing in that type of situation, I would have definitely played it better. I would have been more conscious, and then probably I would have seen the route of, I could do more damage with Rebellion or or triple burst, which would have put me in the final. And then I would have played someone that I beat round 1 of the tournament, which would have been a great match because he was a really good player.
Wow, you just explained a huge difference if you would have had a visible clock to, check out the time, and you would have 100% been in the finals instead of Cam. That's insane.
Yeah, but like again, no shot at, like not discrediting Cam in any way. He is of course an amazing player. He played around everything perfectly, and really it was my only 15-second window because in his hand he had Gazelle Pankratops. So had we even had like turns, we acknowledge the fact that like he probably would have still won and outed like everything. But unfortunately, like that's Yu-Gi-Oh, and like because like that's the time rules that we have at the current moment in time, sadly. But I was never trying to like cheese anyone out of a win, as it was clear in the top 4 match.
Any shout outs?
Yeah, of course. Shout outs to you, Bortle, for having me do this interview with you, and it was a pleasure meeting you this weekend. Shout outs to my car, Aaron, Mark, and QB, Colin and Ramiro for letting us stay at their apartment this weekend. It was crazy because of the 6 people staying in that apartment, 5 of us made top 16. And 3 of them were in my car, and 2 of them were in my car, and then 1 of them, Mark, made top 4 with me. So huge shout out to that. Shout out to PPG for hosting that event. I had a ton of fun. Shout out to my little brother and my mom who was able to like watch the stream together. My little brother and I, we play together. I've played Pendulum for like almost a year now, and he does too. So it was really fun.
Wow, that's so good, and I'm so glad to again meet you and played against you and lost. So it was worth it because you made top 4. That's really nice. Thank you for this interview, buddy, and yeah, that's gonna be a wrap, man.
Yeah, thanks, man. Have a good day.
No problem. Bortle out.